from Pandora. Welcome to A Vault Hunter's Guide to the Borderlands, the best Borderlands podcast on the EchoNet. I'm Drew.
I'm various things you call Jeff.
Thanks for joining us today for episode number 6, where today we're going to be talking about Eridium and Slag. But first, just a quick reminder to let you know that you can always get in contact with us via Twitter at avaulthunterspod or through our email at avaulthuntersguide@gmail.com.
Awesome. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into things here. I'm super excited to talk about our topic. But first of all, let's do what we always do. Drew, how was your last 2 weeks in the Borderlands?
So, the past 2 weeks in the Borderlands for me have been pretty exciting. I've played through the Commander Lilith DLC a couple more times, and then I also decided that since, I'm one of the co-hosts on a Borderlands podcast, I should probably get some more FaceTime with some characters that I don't play as much, so I started up a new Krieg and a new Gage, both. I actually started 2 Gages, because my daughter and I decided to do a co-op run on Borderlands 2, and she picked Maya, and I was like, well, I'll just play as Gage. Haven't really played much Gage, so decided to get into that, and I was like, wow, this is really, really interesting. I think I need more time with this character, so I built a solo playthrough as well. And then the same thing with the Krieg playthrough. I just really need to get more familiar with Krieg as a character and as a class, as a psycho class. So I started playing through that too, and it's going really well. Having a lot of fun with each, and man, Anarchy. OPAF.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet it's been a ton of fun doing that with your daughter, just because, she's slagging everything or using her ability and stuff like that, and then you just blast it with, with a ton of stacks of Anarchy.
Yep, that's basically it. So it's going really well. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, it's been good. How about you? What have you been up to?
Mainly because I've done the Commander Lilith DLC a lot. I mean, that's probably what I'm probably going to be doing stuff based around that for a while. I did. I had a pretty busy couple of weeks. I redid my bathroom and a couple other things, so I was pretty busy. But I did find time to go ahead and finish leveling up my max level 0. So he's all the way up to 80 now. So I'm happy about that. And honestly, I'm super excited to go ahead and start the grind again, looking for all level 80 gear. I know it sounds weird to some people, but I'm sure the people listening to this podcast, we're going to do that. Like I said, I haven't had as much time recently, but that's okay. But I also did start with my Krieg playthrough on there as well. So because he was level 72 as well, so I'm going to go ahead and get him boosted up there. And all I've really been doing is just once I get done with the DLC, I've been fighting Uranus, and
as you do.
Like you do, and it just works really well just because you get a ton of experience from him, and anytime I do find something that I use as far as a legendary or a pearlescent or whatever, I just go ahead and replace it, if it's the right level and stuff like that. So I end up finding a nearly perfect double penetrating Unkempt Herald. Unfortunately, it was at level 79. It wasn't all the way to 80.
Oh man.
Yeah, but it was perfect.
So
close. It was double penetrating. It had really good parts on it, and then it also had the I forget which part it is, but it was the one where it actually has the faster bullet speed too, which for that was awesome. It was super good.
Yeah, yep.
So it worked out well, and I did the entire thing with a 0, with Boar and a Bee and a Sandhawk. The Sandhawk, I was still level 72, and it was probably doing about a third as much damage as a level 81 would have done.
Man,
but but I mean, it still made it work, so just ended up working out pretty well. Anyway,
it's incredible how much of a difference just a few levels makes when you're at endgame. It's just nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at stuff that I had at 72, and I would get it at 75 or 76, and on some of the grenades, it was literally double the damage.
Right.
I think that was one thing. I went from, because I had a level 72 fastball, I ended up finding a level 79 or 70-80, I can't remember which, and it went from 9 million to 19 million damage.
Man, I can't. It's I forget what the name of the curve is, but if you plot a curve on a graph and it just gradually goes up, and then whoop, it's just a crazy uptick, where it just spikes.
Yeah. So, I do hope it's more regulated in BL3. I hope it's more, because I don't care how big the numbers are. I just want them to be a little bit easier to read and stuff like that. And at a certain point, like, damage is damage. Like, if you're sitting there and you're like, all right, great, this does 19 million damage. Like, you have no scale for that,
Right, exactly. It would be kind of nice to, like, just have it more simple, Yeah. I mean, the big numbers was cool for a long time, but now it's like, okay, it'd be great to be able to actually tell the difference, just at a quick glance and being like, wait, how many digits is that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like when you're watching a game show, and it's like, oh, that question was worth 15,000 points, and it's like, great, how much? Like, okay, like,
right.
What's
in dollars?
yeah. Oh, that's 43 cents. It's like, what's the conversion rate here?
Right.
So anyway, so yeah, no, it's been good. I'm excited to keep diving into that and do a few more things. So it'll be good times. But we have some news. Drew, you kind of found out this first piece of news, which I found really interesting. So can you go ahead and give us just a quick little thing about it?
Yeah. So this was an article with the website Metro. They did an interview with. Let me pull up his name. Make sure I got this right here. My apologies.
No, don't worry about it. You're good.
Scott Kester. He's the art director on Borderlands 3, and was also on the crew with Borderlands and Borderlands 2.
Okay.
So the main takeaway from the article is that. So first of all, there's a couple of interesting things in there, but one thing that I think a lot of people will find interesting is that he says that working on Battleborn, like Gearbox did, Gearbox made Battleborn in between Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3.
Yep.
And he claims that making Battleborn has made Borderlands 3 a better game. It's his reason behind it is because they did Borderlands 1, saw it was a huge success, went right into making Borderlands 2, which they had a ton of fun with and everything, but then they kind of needed a break, They just needed to take a break from working on Borderlands and change gears and do something different.
Because they're a Gearbox, so they need to change gears.
I get it. So, it was just he says that it was really, really important for them to do, so that way they wouldn't get burnt out, on the Borderlands series. So it's just really, let's see. Let me read his quote here real quick. Yeah. Says, I've worked on this game for over 4 years now. It's been in development for a while. The second I finished Battleborn, I essentially started getting into this. To us, it wasn't about hammer it out, let's punch it out. It was like, let's make the right thing. Let's get it there, and then we'll talk, and then we'll take our time. And then he goes on to say, so this is the second interesting point about his article, his interview with them. It says, but also we've put so much junk into this game. It's freaking huge. It's considerably more content than we've put into anything else.
Jeez.
Yeah. So let's see. I think he goes on to say in this article that it's like 30 something. I don't remember if it was here or somewhere else, but it's been quoted as saying that it's like 35 hours worth of gameplay and stuff. It's just, or like storyline or something like that. It's just a ton of stuff. So, which is really exciting.
It is really exciting. Yeah. No, I'll be honest, I never played Battleborn just because the type of game it was not really my thing. I'm not into, competitive MOBA-esque hero shootery type kind of things. It's just not. It's just not my thing. But I can see where there was a lot of design elements and things like that could have come through just based off of some of the gameplay that I had seen in the past and some of the trailers and things like that. So. So yeah, I think if that's what they needed to do was to stretch their wings a little bit and get that good, then good deal. That worked out for them. So
yeah, and I can't wait to see how I mean, doing stuff like that always kind of helps recharge the batteries and helps you get a new perspective on what you're doing and stuff, and kind of like I just can't imagine being on that Borderlands 1 and 2 grind for so long, and then trying to do a third one right afterwards. Like you'd be burned out,
Well, and the amount of content they came out with Borderlands 2. I mean, we're it's like 7 years later and we just came out with the last piece of content for it.
Right. Right.
But I mean, they just came out with content consistently for it. And it's like, all right, well, we'll do DLCs and everything like that. And it's like, so they did like a year's worth of DLCs or whatever. And that's like, all right, now we'll do some other smaller things as we go through. It's like, man, like just constant support for it. That was awesome. And then they had the $1 million loot hunt for the community event, which I I know that's kind of become a community internal thing, but I hope that Gearbox ends up doing more stuff like that themselves in the future, because I think that'd be great. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely interesting. So moving right along, we also have something kind of interesting here. So Randy Pitchford on June 29th put out a tweet, and it said the following: "We're coming in for a landing on Borderlands 3. Nice. And there are always a bunch of last-minute decisions. You can help us with this one. Watch/listen to the logo vids in this thread, and then vote for your favorite." So he posted 3 videos that go along with this, and it was different splash screens, actually, for Gearbox. So the video was the same on all of them, but there was different sound bites that go along with it as far as that goes. One of them was kind of like a safe, just kind of like noise, kind of a stab kind of a thing, which was, kind of vaguely reminiscent of the one that they've been going with for a while. There was another one that it was like a rock and roll chord with a voice kind of thing, is how it was described. Yeah,
it was like da da da, da and then this like British voice going, this female British voice going like Gearbox, or something like that. And it was like,
Yeah. So, and then the last one, which Drew and I have kind of decided is kind of our favorite, is
they called it Psycho Kid.
They called it Psycho Kid. That's what he said in the tweet about them. When he said, "Last is hard to describe. We'll just call it Psycho Kid." And it's just like a bunch of like noises and stuff, and then just like a really like a really young kid, probably like sounds like they're like 4 or 5.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, just kind of go like Gearbox, or something like it's just they're trying to sound kind of funny about it. So anyway,
so the voting on that has ended.
Yeah, voting on that.
A while ago.
Yeah. So voting on that ended a while ago. 47% of people out of 10,185 votes said they liked the Psycho Kid one. 29% said they liked the Safe Bet, which again is reminiscent of their older stuff. And then 24% liked the rock chord. So it was kind of starting out with a lot of people going for the Safe Bet, but then I think as it gained traction, Psycho Kid kind of overtook it a little bit. So
yeah, I agree. Which is cool. Like I said, that's the one that I prefer the most. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah. No, it seemed to seems to have worked out pretty well. So
I mean, who knows? Who knows if it'll actually make it? Like could just be Randy being Randy, and other people on the production team are like, yeah, we can't do that. Because of reasons.
Yeah. But, so I mean, 10,000 people is still an extremely small sample size.
Yeah,
for something like that. So, but you never know. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But it was kind of a fun thing. Other couple of things. So, just a very, very quick thing here. So, Guardian Con was over this last weekend. For those of you that don't know, a Guardian Con was started as it originally started out 5 years ago as just a get together for a bunch of people in the Destiny community, and it's since kind of grown into a looter shooter kind of a thing. Next year it will actually be more involved in that because Destiny will still always be the heart of it, but they're getting into more just like cooperative game kind of thing. So the following years will be called the Gaming Community Expo. So it's kind of a fun thing. But the heart of it has always been kind of looter shooters. And so Gearbox was actually there this year. So so at GuardianCon, Gearbox was there. Borderlands 3 was playable. A ton of people said they had a really good time with it. I don't think it was anything different than what we've seen already. But super excited about that. One of the awesome things though was that overall the looter shooter community raised about $4 million for St. Jude Children's Hospital. So, congratulations to everyone. That's awesome. I'm still hoping to get out there with my wife someday. That's something that we want to do at some point, but yeah, no, I think it's awesome. And thanks to Gearbox for helping, to perpetuate that and help make that a thing. So
yeah, absolutely. How much do you think Anthem players contributed to that?
Shh. Don't. You know what? I don't know why I'm shushing you. There's like the crossover is not going to be that big. There's like 4 people that play Anthem anymore.
Yeah,
really. And here's the thing, guys. We really wanted to like Anthem. We really did.
True story. So, we absolutely did. But we don't talk about the game anymore. So.
No. So if they update it, maybe we'll check it out again. So but that's just
that'd be a good like future episode, like how Borderlands compares to other looter shooters.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah. So going off that, we also got a fun little trailer from Gearbox on. Well, I say trailer. It was more like a mini vid doc kind of a thing, I guess.
yeah, that's kind of what it seems like to me. Is like it's going to be like a mini video miniseries, that Borderlands is putting out on their YouTube page. This first one was it appears to be Claptrap and one of my favorite returning characters, Heyo Steve, doing a documentary series a la David Attenborough, but with Claptrap.
Yep.
So, and exploring the creatures and flora and fauna of Pandora. So that ought to be just a really fun little series. Not really news, but just something cool that you might want to check out. It's on the Borderlands page, and hopefully they just keep on dropping new videos in that series for a while, because the first one, really, really pretty good. Man, Claptrap gets yeeted so friggin' hard.
Right at the end, it's so good.
Yeah. So it's not spoiling anything. It's not canon or anything. I'm sure it's just a 2-minute video of Clappy and Heyo Steve. So
yeah, if you don't have an interest in watching kind of like a little spoof documentary about it, I still recommend it, because there are some new things that we find out from there, as far as like some new creatures and things like that. But just even take a look at it.
Yeah, for example, there's Jeffs and Jeffs.
So at the beginning, you might have heard me say I'm various things called Jeff, because that is a reference to that video. So if you want to know what it's about, go check it out. But yeah, no, like if for no other reason, I recommend people check it out, because it looks like they're using in-game footage for parts of it, as opposed to like pre-rendered stuff. It looks like a mix between gameplay and pre-rendered stuff. But the awesome thing about it is the gameplay footage I've seen, the models for the creatures look amazing. They look so good.
Yeah,
true
story.
Like I've never. It seems like they're finally getting to the point to where they can put as much detail as they want to these things, and it's like, all right, here's the thing. This is how we've always imagined a Skag actually looked. Things like that. So, and it just looks amazing when you see the detail in it and everything like that. I mean, it's like anything else. When you're a kid or whatever, you think of, it's like, S is for snake, and you just see like this cartoon drawing of a snake, and then you actually see what a snake looks like with like the scale patterns and the colors, and you're like, oh snap, like that's pretty cool, So
right, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
comparing it to like OG Borderlands, like Borderlands 1 stuff, especially before the updated, texture packs and
and the re-release.
4K, yeah, all that stuff. Like it looks amazing. So everything that they do now. Oh yeah, quick sidebar. Everything that that Gearbox and Borderlands does, like, just increases my hype, including their tweet from a few days ago that simply said Borderlands.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I did, and it got just like a ton of likes.
Yeah, I mean,
that was amazing.
It just, even stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, Borderlands. Mm-hmm. You know, like, just gets me more and more pumped. And
also,
today, as of today's recording, we are 2 months and 1 week away. Oh, sorry, 2 months and 6 days away, actually. So 2 months and less than a week. So
that's so good.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Like, you have no idea. So
I'm just pumped.
Yeah, absolutely. So one other real quick thing that I wanted to touch on, just in that same thing, in that little thing, video they put out, was there was a billboard that was very clearly, it didn't say it was, but it was very clearly Penn and Teller on this billboard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
For those of you that don't know, Randy Pitchford's a huge fan of Magic. Like, not Magic the Gathering, but, like, you know, actual, like, performance Magic, you know, and stuff like that. And they recently released a game, like a VR game with Penn and Teller, and so yeah, they have a close working relationship, and so, you know, there was just like a billboard, and I was like, oh, it's Penn and Teller, you know, yep. Like, so it's a very Borderlands version of Penn and Teller, but still.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I think it's gonna be, you know, wicked exciting, and I think watching more of those videos leading up to it will be really fun. So.
Yeah. By the way, they're named Pain and Terror.
Pain and Terror on the billboard.
I paused it on there. This is Pain and Terror.
Nice. All right. Perfect. Yep. I wonder if that's gonna be like a boss fight in the game.
That would be sick. I would love that.
So,
like, we're gonna fight these two things at once. That'd be sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
All right. So, jump into our topic then.
Yeah. I think we're ready to get into our main topic for the day. Like we said at the top of the episode, that is Eridium and Slag. So, I guess I'll go ahead and take this first part here. A quick history. Eridium, not to be confused with real world's Iridium, spelled with an I, compared to Borderlands version spelled with an E at the beginning. It's a very Iridium is a very hard natural metal substance used in high-temperature measurement devices. Is the majority of the reason why the story in Borderlands 2 even exists. As we know from Marcus's recap of Borderlands 1, at the beginning of Borderlands 2, Eridium changed Pandora forever and helped put Hyperion and Handsome Jack in power. If you have followed Borderlands on YouTube, they mentioned in the Story So Far series on Borderlands 2, they mentioned that that's how Hyperion just got to where they are, by mining Eridium. Just all the Eridium.
Yep, and Eridium wasn't even a thing until the first vault was opened, which was led to by... so Angel led the first Vault Hunters in the first game to the vault, and she did it under the direction of her dad, Handsome Jack. So,
yep,
game's like 7 years old. I'm not even calling spoilers on this. If you haven't played it by this point,
no, it's like 10 years old now. Oh, you're talking about Borderlands 2.
Yeah, because
I thought you were talking about Borderlands 1. And I was like, no, that game's 10 years old, dude.
Yeah, because we didn't know that Handsome Jack was controlling Angel until Borderlands 2. So yeah,
right.
Either way, like, you know, you missed your chance. Like,
right.
So
no more spoiler warnings for you.
Yeah, really, no more spoiler warnings for you. So, but yeah, so we're gonna go through a history of that and everything like that, and we're gonna start with Eridium. So, Eridium does have a fair amount of different uses. One of the biggest ones being one of the biggest canonical uses of it being, and that's how we actually even have E-Tech experimental weaponry, is because of mixing Eridium with different weapons and everything like that, and that's how you get the plasma casters and the
the spikers and the
railers
blasters and all those.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, all that kind of good stuff. So that is the main thing for it, as far as a canonical use.
Additionally, because Hyperion basically had a monopoly on Eridium, they were the first ones to manufacture E-Tech weapons and then licensed it out to all the other manufacturers. So they got a slice of that pie as well. Yeah. So if you have a Malawan plasma caster, right? Hyperion still gets a piece of that pie,
right,
from selling that weapon. Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why. I mean, canonically, that's part of the reason why Hyperion was the perfect fit to be the bad guy. Between the satellite for Angel being a Hyperion one at the end of BL1, and then all the stuff that came from it here, there's that's the whole reason why Hyperion is like it is. So, getting into some real world uses of it, we have the black market, which Earl's black market. So, which now that we've played the Commander Lilith DLC, I still have no idea why Earl was collecting Eridium, like, at all.
No idea. Not a clue. No. I mean, it's just like there's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no reason behind it, like in the story or anything like that. It's just is it just supposed to be like the equivalent of like some old guy who's just got hundreds of gold bars because, in case the economy collapses, he's got this thing, and in the meantime he's just cash poor and has a bank account of like nothing.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, that makes as much sense as anything I can think of. I don't know. So.
Right.
So, we'll hold off on some of the spoilers and stuff like that for that, because that is new content. So we'll let you guys enjoy that. But yeah. So one thing we do want to have just a short little conversation on it is, one of the other things is that Eridium is actually used to access raid bosses. So typically before a raid boss, you will actually pay Eridium to get into the arena with the raid boss. And usually, I mean, it's different for each one, stuff like that, but typically, it's at least some grouping of 4, so it's like 4, 8, or 12, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and the raid, obviously we're talking about the raid bosses like Terramorphous and Pyropete and those ones.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So taking out the fact that, so we know that Slag is not going to be in Borderlands 3. That we're sure of.
Right.
So we don't know if Eridium is going to be yet. I'm not sure if that's a thing.
Yeah, that's true. We don't know if it's a thing. We do know just from the original gameplay event back in May, I believe, that Eridium will not be used as currency to do your backpack upgrades and weapon SDU upgrades and stuff like they did in Borderlands 2. Also, it's not even Earl that's selling them to you. It's Marcus. Who knows what happens to Earl? We'll have to play Borderlands 3 to find out. Yeah. But so it looks like, I mean, if I remember right, we're just going back to normal dollars. Normal currency.
Yep.
To purchase those upgrades.
Yep.
Which kind of begs the question: was it a good idea to use it for your backpack and weapon SDU upgrades in Borderlands 2?
So my thing about that is, I don't know. It's kind of weird that they put it in just as like an alternate currency. I understand the canonical side of it because we've talked about it a little bit already. However, I don't feel like there was a lot of reason for it, because if you just because here's the thing, as you go through the game in Borderlands 2, you're gonna want to get those upgrades anyway. And the main thing that I'm thinking of is mainly how much like the ammo SDUs, the ammo storage deck upgrades. I kind of liked doing the little side quests to get the backpack upgrades from the claptraps in the first one. Yes. I understand that our claptrap is the only one left at this point, so that's not really a thing, but I'm sure they could have come up with something else. That being said, I think that they would have been just fine going with the actual dollars currency for getting the rest of them. I think that would have been okay. I feel that Eridium was kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like they tried to kind of make up for it by like, hey, do this side quest for so and get 4 Eridium. It's like that's really frustrating for me.
Yeah.
Really, if you want a good amount of Eridium, like if you need a ton of it, you're probably just farming the bunker, you know, or
farming the bunker,
or you know.
Yeah, or Badma, you know, gives anywhere between 1 and 4, you know, and that's a really quick, easy farm you can do. But yeah, you know, I mean, we're already farming for gear and stuff like that. You know, I feel like farming for currency is a little kind of feeling, you know, especially because I don't know. And here's the weird thing: as weird as it sounds, I understand that you pay money when you get a new U or when you use a new U station, stuff like that. But other than that, money really doesn't have much of a purpose now, because at endgame, no one's buying stuff from the vendors, hardly at all.
Right, exactly. The only time that I'm really using money in game is for new U's, and for early game. If like for example, I was playing my Necromancer build the other day, and you know the first class mod that Lilith gives you after completing, you know, defending the Firehawk's lair and everything.
Yeah, just like the white basic SDU.
Right. So I had gone
or class mod. Sorry.
Yeah. So before you go into her lair proper, you know, into the main part of the lair, there is the med vendor and the ammo vendor right there outside.
Yeah.
So I stopped at that just to see what there was, and there was a class mod. I can't remember the name of it, but it does an increased reload speed and something else. Shield recharge rate or something like that. But anyways, I was like, oh, that's pretty good if you're playing Gauge, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then went in, completed the quest for Lilith, and then as soon as it was done, she handed me the class mod, and it was like, it gave me a class mod for like team elemental effect chance or something like that, and I'm like, nah. So like ran back to the med vendor quick, spent $400 on this other class mod before she yeeted me out of there.
Yeah.
Which happened like literally, like I made the purchase and then like I closed out of that menu and it was zap, and I was over in that other spot. And I was like, oh man, it was really close timing. But like early game slight bonuses is when I'm really using money.
Yeah.
You know, buying better shields, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. So, going along with that,
though. Never guns and never grenade mods.
No, I mean it's pretty rare for a couple of reasons. First of all, you know, Drew and I are hoarders that way, so we tend to have a lot of golden keys. So if we've got really terrible weapons and we just need to upgrade, we're just like, I'll just spend like 5 to 10 golden keys and I'll get something halfway decent, because it's not hard to find the codes online for the golden keys. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the main thing. And then, you know, most of the time we're also farming a lot of the legendaries as we go through the game, just because we find it makes it more satisfying, you know, and that's what we like to do, is to farm the weapons and the gear and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, so going along with that, I personally don't like the idea of using the Eridium to access raid bosses either. I feel like it's kind of like, it just seems like it is kind of another thing. It's like, well, crap, we've got all this Eridium, and then they're going to keep gathering it. So what do we do at endgame when they've got, you know, full 500, you know, stacks of Eridium? It's like, you know, what if we make it so that they can access the raid bosses that way? It's like, yeah, okay, but are we going to be locking out content from people that don't have any Eridium or anything? It's like, well, yeah, I guess so. It's like, it's just weird. Like the whole thing behind it is weird. As someone who's played a fair amount of looter shooters and other games and things like that, I'm not a big fan on alternate currencies. You know, it always just seems a little bit weird. And granted, the reason I'm okay with it more so in Borderlands is because, like, there's not a thing where it's like, hey, pay $5 for 500 Eridium. You know, like
exactly. Like if you had to pay, if even there was the option to pay real world money for in-game currency, that would be a huge dick move.
Yeah, absolutely. Just straight up. So.
Yep. Not even, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just, because that's predatory and hella dumb.
Speaking of butts, you can also use Eridium for Butt Stallion. So.
Yep. So, when completing the Tiny Tina DLC, and once you complete it, Butt Stallion can be found in Flame Rock Refuge with Roland, and you can feed her 5 Eridium, and will cause her to either vomit or defecate a single piece of loot. It can be as many times as you want. So according to borderlands.fandom.com/wiki, Butt Stallion, one of the following things will happen. She'll either flatulate, producing a green weapon, vomit a rainbow, and a blue weapon, or she'll rear up, whinny, and shit out a purple weapon. Those are the options. And the purple ones have a high chance of being a gemstone weapon, which we'll probably get into some other time. But I mean,
oh yeah.
So those are the options. It's kind of like using the slot machines, but way better.
Yeah, the return on it is better because you're not going to get nothing, and you're not going to get a grenade in the face.
Right. Oh, sorry, I forgot. She will also. The other option is she will whinny, prance in place, turn 180 degrees, and then poop out a legendary. That is also a potential.
Yep. So at least in the Tina DLC, there was other uses for it because you could also use Eridium for the slots at Moxie's Tavern there. So that was the thing you could use them for because they took Eridium instead of dollars, which again seems like a thing. It's like, well, we got to have more uses for Eridium, so they did that. And then for the D20 rolls on the chests where they have the D20s on them, or the 20-sided dice for people who don't play Dungeons and Dragons. And they, and so there were a lot of uses for it between Butt Stallion and the D20 rolls and the Moxie slots. So there were more, but I feel like still a lot of people don't really end up using a lot of that. Granted, currency actually isn't used in here a lot. So those are kind of the in-game uses for them and everything like that, though. So that's kind of where we're at. So moving along to our next point, which is I don't know, some more kind of lore stuff, I guess, real quick, and we're going to get into. So
yeah, because it's not a practical application, this next part.
Yeah. So so the interesting thing is that so sirens, we know there's a strong connection from that to, Eridium to sirens and everything like that, which kind of has me a little bit nervous because if Eridium and Slag aren't as much of a thing in the next game, how are they really going to tie that together more so? It's going to be kind of weird. But here's the thing that we've noticed just from there. So we've seen Lilith. So here, I'll just read what I have written here. Sirens can use either refined or unrefined Eridium to enhance their abilities. This doesn't change the inherent abilities of a siren, but amplifies them. This is exemplified by Lilith being able to phase all of Sanctuary into a different area. So Lilith already has the ability to phase walk herself and go from area to area. And
without the use of Eridium.
Without the use of Eridium. That's just her natural siren ability. So we've also, but as we've seen, she can amplify that and do more things when she's given Eridium. When Sanctuary is about to take off in Borderlands 2, she needs a lot of Eridium to help her move it, and that's what she's trying to do. And you give her a lot of unrefined Eridium. This is just Eridium that's in chunks. It's not in the bars that you actually collect as the currency, which again I still have a slight problem with because you only see that like twice. You see it during that scene where she's getting ready to do that, and you see it at the very beginning of the game, or towards the beginning of the game, where you help Zed with perform surgery, and the guy's got an Eridium shard in him. Those are both unrefined. Any other time, they don't really mention it, and all you ever actually find when you're out playing in game is refined iridium in the bars.
So about that, would Eridium have been more interesting had they, let's say that you didn't have that initial meeting with Zed like that, right?
Okay.
Where he's like, I mean, he says it right from the get-go, you guys can't get slag powers from swallowing this stuff, is
sure.
almost exactly what he says.
Yeah.
Would the game have been more interesting if you could?
So, like, if it had been a usable thing.
Yeah. So, let's say that... I mean, you and I hadn't planned this out. It's not in the show notes, so I'm just kind of winging it here. But, like, off the top of my head, let's say... Okay, so you know how Maya, right, her phase lock ability usually can't work on larger enemies, you know? I mean, normal badass mobs and stuff are fine, but, like, she obviously can't phase lock the Warrior or Saturn or anything like that.
Yeah.
What if you could use a certain amount of Eridium and be allowed to do that, but it was like a timed thing? So, like, you know, you have a quick thing that you do, you pay 5 Eridium, and now you can phase lock a huge enemy like that for the same duration that you'd normally be able to phase lock them, right? And then there's like a countdown timer to where you're not allowed to do it for a certain amount of time because supposedly when you do, it does massive amounts of damage to you using too much Eridium at once.
So I like that idea, and I really like where you're going. I think that would have made it very interesting. I think maybe, and I'm being very kind of about this, but like, I think maybe it might have been difficult to do in a live co-op setting because, so like if you play like Skyrim or something like that, or Dragon Age, you just pause the game and you use like a potion or a buff or whatever. So when you're playing a co-op game like that, you either have to have a button assigned to that already so you can do it on the fly, because you're not going to be able to, if you're playing in any kind of co-op thing, you're not going to be able to just pause the game and do it yourself because everything is still happening around you.
Right.
So I definitely think.
Okay, so let's say it's just long press on your ability. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. No, I could probably get down on that. I think in order to make it fair and still balanced, I think you would have to have a big takeaway on it, because, you know, if you're able to phase lock something like Terramorphous or something like that just for a little bit, even if it's not putting it into the ball, even if it's just like stopping it in place and essentially freezing it and having it take more damage, I think that's awesome. I think it needs to have something to balance it out. Otherwise, people are...
Okay, here it is. Right? So, it's going to sound like I'm talking about a magic card right now, but like...
Okay.
So, you long press your special ability, right?
Yep.
You pay 5 Eridium, or 10, or whatever they decide, you know, or like it varies depending on level or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your current health level is halved.
I was thinking the same exact thing.
so like you're at max health, boom, you're at half health, because using that shit can't be good for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, and Maya's is easy. I mean, like I just figured that one out on the fly, right?
Yeah.
Salvador gunzerking lasts twice as long as it normally would.
Nope, Salvador gets 4 guns.
Oh my god, he grows like Amara style extra limbs.
Yes.
And now you're rocking all 4 guns at once.
Yes.
That'd be sick. Let's see.
What are you playing with today, Sal? I'm playing with 4 double penetrating unkept turtles. I
like it. I want it. Yeah. All right. So Zero does like
multiple clones.
Yeah, multiple clones, and when they disappear, they explode and slag everything within a certain area.
Okay, so he does have a skill like that already.
Oh right, he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, because he has Unforeseen. So we just take that out of the skill tree and we just make it a thing that he does already. So, because with Unforeseen, your holographic decoy explodes when you become visible again, causing shock damage to nearby enemies. Damage increases per level. But if we... So it's one of those things where like it says damage increased per level and everything like that. So it's just like how much damage? Well, 5 of unforeseen damage when you've got multiple things in there. So right. I'm not going to do the math on it right now, but I like the idea. So yeah, he has multiple clones, and when they all come out, like, or maybe each one of them has like a chance to do like, maybe he puts out like 5 clones and each of them is a different element or something like that.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be cool.
And so like he's standing in the center, and when he puts his decoy out, they each go out in like directly outward from him.
Yeah, like in a pentagonal,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So no, I like that. And then let's see who else we got here. So
still got Axton, Krieg, and Gage.
So all right, so Axton, I feel like
keep in mind, like, if you're not sorry if we're getting a little sidetracked on this, but we're just making this up. None of this is actual stuff that you can do.
Yeah,
would be sweet.
It would be. So Axton, let's go with this. Ooh, okay. So Axton will do something that's kind of a call forward instead of a call back. So instead of it being like just a turret, what if it's like a little like mini deployed tank type thing?
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like he throws out like a little like those 4-wheelers, but it's got like a roll cage and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
so like something
a UTV.
Like that. Yeah, that's what it is. So like one of those, but like with a turret on each side.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you run over something with it, it like extends the duration of using that thing for just a little bit longer.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. So, all right. So if we're doing Gage, I mean, it would have to be something with clap or with death trap involved. It's just like, what is that? Do you just?
Does it have to be death trap, or does it have to be, or could it be some? Well, yeah, I guess because it's all going to be something based around their base skill. Because like if you're not spec'd into Anarchy, then like if the thing was based around Anarchy and you're like, well, I'm not playing Anarchy Gage. Why would you do that? You could, but why? Why would
you could, but why?
I mean, like if you're not spec'd into Anarchy, then it doesn't do you any good. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
Because initially my thought was like, your Anarchy like doubles, but then like drops at a ridiculous rate back to the level that it was at.
Yeah, that one's tough.
Yeah,
that one's really tough.
Would be tough. But anyways, all right. So it's got to be something with death trap.
Yeah, I think maybe just having like for a very short time. I'm talking like a really short time. Like just have like death trap become like a full on like mech. Like a full on like Gundam, like
yeah, but not one that you pilot, because then it would be too similar to Iron Bear and stuff like that, right? So like like an autonomous thing still.
Yeah. So the only one I'm having really trouble figuring out is Krieg, because Krieg's release the beast skill at the bottom kind of already does something almost like that. For those of you that aren't aware, so once you go down his mania tree and you get to release the beast, activating the Buzz-Axe Rampage when or below 33% of your max health, which is when it gets all blinky, it instantly refills his health and transforms him into a badass psycho mutant with plus 100% melee damage and plus 50% damage reduction. Buzz-Axe Rampage is instantly recharged afterwards. That kind of sounds like that type of thing already. Like that.
Yeah.
How
about
because what are we gonna? Because what are we gonna do? Just make it be like, just do that, but double it again.
Right. Make it bigger.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
So he goes down to 10, like. Not 10%, just 10 health, right?
10 health, great.
Yes. So he's just barely not dead, right?
Okay.
And instead of having to pull each trigger in order to throw a single buzz axe, like each trigger does, like he pulls buzz axes out from each hand, and he's just chucking them.
So
unless he's within a certain range, and then you can hit them.
So I have kind of a weird thing here, but it totally plays into Krieg and his abilities and everything. Because I don't hate what you're talking about. It's not bad, but I think I've got something. So he has a skill called Light the Fuse. Yeah. So Light the Fuse, fight for your life is replaced with Light the Fuse. During Light the Fuse, you pull out a live bundle of dynamite and can move normally. The bundle detonates when the timer runs out. If you kill someone, you are revived. Getting a revive with the bundle explosion gives you bonus movement speed for the remainder of the time that was left in Light the Fuse. Throw dynamite sticks with fire and detonate bundle by holding action. Okay. So here's the thing. So instead of doing that, you have something that's similar, but you're able to do it by using the Eridium this way. But with Krieg, it's almost the exact opposite. So he uses that, and then he just has like a gigantic explosion that's just like a nuke that like went off. Okay. But here's the thing. His like it does, like, when he comes out of it, he will be at like half health or whatever, but it does just a stupid amount of damage. So he just runs into a mob or next to a boss or whatever. And it's just like,
okay, so it turns Krieg into a suicide psycho.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it turns him into a suicide psycho, but like even more so than what Light the Fuse does.
Right.
So
yeah, I like that. That's cool.
Anyway, I feel like we've spent a lot of time on this.
Yeah, on this thing that is never going to happen. Sorry if we got your hopes up, but
all right.
But anyways, just to wrap that up, like, sirens are the only ones who got to benefit from Eridium, and not even like the in-game playable siren, just the NPC. So I just feel like that would have been a really interesting, an additional cool use of Eridium. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Going into that, we talked about refined versus unrefined, how they can use either one. Technically, they're two different things. It's never explained. It's really never explained what the difference is, because they never like, oh, this one, other than, swallowing the unrefined kills you, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But they never explain it. What we do know, however, is that slag is a byproduct of the Eridium refining process, which brings us to slag. We had notes on here about Eridium as a secondary currency in the game. I think we've covered that topic pretty well at this point.
Yeah, I think so too.
So slag, first of all, there's a lot of importance in late game as far as slag. There's a lot of things where you're going to want to have slag just to be able to do the extra damage to things using slag. So in late game, I'm not as fond of it, and I'm glad they're getting rid of it. But as far as late game goes, I would rather have something else. I'd rather just be able to do more damage overall to kind of balance things out than have to rely on slag. I get balancing issues and everything, and they were learning as they went when they came out with it, but that's just kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, so. It's not necessary at all first playthrough. It's pretty helpful in second playthrough. Absolutely vital in third playthrough.
Yeah, it really is. So, and we'll get into that here in a little bit when we talk about some of the main weapons that we really like as far as it goes. So, Grog Nozzle, we're not going to spend much time on that because surprises. So, but Grog Nozzle is great. It's always guaranteed to be slag. And then as far as other really fun, unique slag weapons, we have the Chilean, the Slaga, the Florentine, and the Antagonist. So, pro tip out there, if you're playing Krieg, you're probably going to want a Slaga at some point.
Yep.
So yeah, those are kind of now I forget, are those ones aren't are those ones all guaranteed to be slag, or they just have a chance to be slag?
No, I believe they're all guaranteed to be slag.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right, well, that's cool.
Let me just double check here. Chilean, yes, slag. Oh, and apparently the Chilean is also available as shock as well, but apparently that's not listed as a potential one. The Slaga is slag only, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Florentine.
Yeah. So, and then the antagonist, which is actually not a weapon, the antagonist is actually a shield. So what it does is it actually bounces the enemy's bullets or deflects them, I guess. And it does that with increased damage towards the enemies. So, and it also launches homing balls of slag at attackers. So it's kind of an interesting one. So,
sidebar: the Florentine is shock and slag both.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah,
like simultaneously.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and get more into those when we do them in our things. In our going gun or going gun grenade, whatever, all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
So yeah, we also have as far as enemies. Well, yeah. Drew, why don't you go ahead and take the enemies here?
Yeah. So every basic enemy in the game is vulnerable to slag damage, except for slagged variants, which we'll talk about in a sec, but also crystallisks and constructors. They're the only common enemies that you'll find in the game that are not subjective to slag damage.
Yeah.
As far as major enemies go, the Leviathan, Jackenstein, Piston's Blimp, Badassosaurus, and Saturn are not able to be slagged.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting that Saturn can't be slagged, because if I remember right, I think Uranus can be slagged. So
I believe that's correct.
So again, it's new. I haven't double checked on that, but go along with that, we do have some slag variant enemies, which you can have slag spider ants, racks, psychos, threshers, stalkers, spores, and scalians. For those of you that don't remember, scalians are the kind of spider ant stalker kind of things, I guess you'd call them, in the Sir Hammerlock DLC. So they've never been too much of a threat. They're kind of slower and whatever, stuff like that. So, I've never felt too much of a threat from the slagged enemies, except for the slag psychos and stalkers, maybe.
So the only ones that really give me an issue when I'm not playing as Krieg are slag spider ants when there are fire spider ants nearby.
Yeah, that's true.
but that's a pretty rare instance. And other than that, I think it's just the slagged enemies are just irritating just because you can no longer slag them. That's the only irritating part about it to me.
Yeah, and in late game, that is kind of a bummer. So
right.
Yeah.
So then you just gotta, use your other stuff in order to deal with that. I mean, that could be super tedious. Frustrating. Yeah, there you go. Tedious.
So, yeah, going along with that, there are some abilities that some of the Vault Hunters have that can do slag type things. So Maya has a couple, which makes sense because she's the siren, so it makes sense that she has something along those lines. So she has Scorn and Ruin. So let's see, Ruin is an action skill augmentation. So when you phase lock now slags, corrodes, and electrocutes all nearby enemies.
Pretty sick skill. Really love that.
Yeah, it really is. So for that's
the capstone of the Cataclysm tree, if you were wondering.
Yeah. So for things like that, reasons like that is why if you're going to be playing solo and you're just looking to have some fun and whatever, that's usually why Maya is kind of one of the better ones to start out with, is just because she has some of those abilities that work out really well. The other one...
Yeah, quickly, just going into her Cataclysm tree in general is pretty good because there's pretty much elemental abilities that affect almost every element, so regardless of what you go up against, you can do some kind of damage towards it.
Yep. So, and then the other one, Scorn, being the capstone in the tree next to it, in the Harmony tree. So, so it's a melee override, and instead of so it's on a cooldown, but instead of instead of like punching something or anything like that, she actually throws out an orb of slag that constantly damages enemies near it. It does have an 18-second cooldown, so it's a little bit longer. Pressing melee when Scorn is on cooldown will just perform a regular melee attack. And the fun thing is, I've seen a lot of people glitch out the game like this in a lot of fun ways. It's another thing where it's another one of those goofy things where if you have like a weighted scroll wheel and you put Scorn onto a melee ability and you put that on the scroll wheel, if you just like flick it and have it, if it reads all that stuff, you can throw out like a bunch of Scorn orbs like all at once.
So that's weird. So like it just reads it as like a ton of melee clicks before it says, hey, before the cooldown starts. Is that basically how it works?
Yeah. Yep. So that's kind of the thing. So it does work better if the slower your computer is running, because your computer has trouble processing it all at once.
Okay.
Like I've seen people do it where they're like uploading a YouTube video and they'll be doing it. So stuff like that, or like rendering a video or whatever, and so, but yeah, that's basically what it is. Cause I mean, if you, like you said, if you have that weighted scroll wheel and if you make it spin real fast, game's like, it's, 7, like,
right.
So,
okay, so next we have Axon's skill Double Up, which is the capstone in the Gorilla Tree, which is based around his turret pretty much. It's so Double Up adds a second gun to the Saber turret, and both guns fire slag bullets. Really, really, really useful.
Yeah, I know that you've played more Axton than I have. That's actually a really handy thing for like solo playthrough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super, because you're using your turret a lot more, and just having that guaranteed slag is nice. Like I said, we're talking about the slag weapons and everything. It's good to have a lot of them, but there's better things that he can use, So like if you're in second playthrough and you're doing grenade and you're in a grenade build, having gone into the Gorilla Tree and getting that capstone of Double Up is really convenient, because now you're slagging everything and you're lighting them up with with the Deepa, and it's just really great. So super handy. The last skill that is slag related when it comes to playable characters is Gage's skill Interspersed Outburst.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, I had trouble even saying it when Jeff and I were working on this episode together. I was like, interspeed something. I don't remember what I called it, but Interspersed Outburst is not the capstone, but second to last skill in the Little Big Trouble tree. Not shooting an enemy for a short time grants you a stack of Interspersed Outburst, up to 5 stacks potentially. The next time you shoot an enemy, all stacks of Interspersed Outburst are consumed, and you deal rank slag damage. You can get 1 per level. The more stacks are consumed, the greater the chance of slagging the target.
That one's kind of a weird one. Like,
it's really odd.
Yeah, I know that Gage was the last character they worked on for Borderlands 2. And, they're trying to keep things new and fresh, and I totally get that. But that one's kind of a weird one. It's like, you advertise this game that has, what they said, 87 bazillion guns was like the marketing campaign for it. And it's like,
something like that.
All right, have all these guns, but don't shoot them. Like,
right. Also, like we said earlier, like if you're playing Gage, you are going to be running Anarchy more than likely. So, which rewards you from shooting things and then reloading.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really weird. I would have rather seen like a slag addition to Death Trap or something like that,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, really interesting though. I don't know. Maybe it could have been a little bit, I don't know. It could have been different if you were running almost like a, because Gage obviously does a lot of cool stuff with like shotguns, like the Jacobs shotguns, because of how Anarchy works and things like that.
Sure.
It could have been really interesting if they had found a way to like be like, all right, you're going to dual spec, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to run shotguns and you're going to run melee.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. So like it's like a melee override thing, like just like Maya's, you know. So like if you punch something, you can, but instead of shooting out an orb, maybe you just slag an enemy directly.
Yeah. So
Or like you
yeah,
have a chance to slag an enemy or something, because it can't be like guaranteed slag. That would just be ridiculous.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like it's a melee override thing. That's like, all right, 50% chance to. Maybe it'd be a thing where it's like 50% chance to slag an enemy, and then 50% chance to deal 100% melee, plus 100% melee damage, and it's still on like a 5-second cooldown or something.
Yeah,
like
that'd be cool. That'd have been cool.
So, yeah. So getting into a lot of hypotheticals on this episode.
Right.
So,
interestingly, no slag things for Zero or Krieg or
Salvador? Yeah, there you go.
I was like, I'll get there.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. I think it'll be good. I'm not sure. I understand that like the radiation thing in Borderlands 3 that's coming out. I think that'll be kind of a fun thing. At the same time, I hope it's not connected to anybody's skills. I think just sticking a little bit more closely to the base things is going to be a little bit better. So sticking to fire, corrosion, electric, and cryo, which we know that's going to be a big thing coming up in there too, as it was in. Yeah, that was one of the big things they really actually did get right in pre-sequel, and I'm really happy. So, and then explosive, obviously, because you got to have explosions.
Well,
so, but as far as I'm just not sure how the nuclear radiation thing would work. As far as a character.
I think the reason that we talk so much about hypothetical, skill buffs and stuff like that for the playable characters in Borderlands 2 is because they kind of forced it. Like it's like, well, there are like it's a totally necessary thing, so so you might as well steer into it and do stuff for the other characters as well. So it just seems or make the ones that are on the existing characters better. So but it would be nice to completely abandon the necessity of a secondary of a different element in order to play late game in Borderlands 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be good. Or if it is necessary, make it available across the board and have it not be so difficult. Like if it was necessary in late game to use fire in Borderlands 2, that'd be fine. It's not a big deal because it's everywhere,
Yeah, yep.
Slag is a lot more difficult to come by, which I guess some people would argue, well, that's kind of the point, but it just there's other ways to make the game more interesting late game than forcing an element upon you,
Yeah. And here's the thing that makes it tough too is because we don't I prefer that Slag not be in Borderlands 3, and I'm glad that it's not, but the thing that we have an issue with is that it's reliance on everything else. It's not that you use Slag, it's that in order to make Slag work, you have to pair it with other things. And that's kind of a huge pain.
Yes, yeah, if you're not running Salvador, if you're anybody else, that's a pain in the ass,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and even for the even for the characters that can use that kind of stuff, it is kind of a pain. So like,
because now because it's so far down the skill tree that it's necessary to be like, all right, well, I guess to play as late game, Axton, I am required to go into double up, at the end of the gorilla tree. Like it's an absolute must.
Yeah, and even like here's the thing is that even with one skill we didn't mention because it's not technically a Slag skill is like Gage's Make It Sparkle. So shooting Death Trap with an elemental weapon charges him with that element, causing his melee attacks to deal additional damage of that element. It's like even that's not technically that kind of a thing. So it's weird, and that's the thing is like I like all of the action skills that you can use in Borderlands 2, but it's kind of a bummer when you feel like in late game you're forced to use them as a way to get slag so that your character can actually do things.
Right. Now it's not so much a buff as it's a crutch.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's, I'm glad that they're going away from it. It's kind of weird because now you're going from not having it to having something. Yeah. It's the thing to having it in the first game, or not having it in the first game, having it in the second game, and then Borderlands 3 not having it again. So it's lore and canon wise, we're gonna be all over the place.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be like, all the Eridium in the world is gone. Like, what? There's tons of it. So
we went to find Eridium. It was gone. What do you mean it was gone? It was gone.
Yeah, exactly. So
maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's what happened to Crazy Earl. He just like found all the Eridium and just like yeeted out of there.
Peace, bitches.
Yeah, just gone. Anyway,
I have all the Eridium.
Anyway, so getting into that, one major thing we wanted to let people know is that when you're playing the game, don't get permaslagged. Jeff,
right,
what's permaslag? Right. I'm gonna tell you.
Right, because when you and I were writing up this episode, you're like, yeah, we should probably talk about getting permaslagged, and I think I said exactly that. Like, what the hell's permaslagged? And you're like, oh, dude.
And I was like, you don't know.
Yeah. So, according to Jeff and what he's written here, permaslagging happens when you get slagged in a vehicle and you are permanently slagged. At least until you close your session and open it again. It's apparently incredibly dangerous in UVHM and OP levels.
As you can imagine, because that's the thing. So you get slagged. So if you're in the later part of the game or anything like that in the area, in the boneyard or the Arid Nexus or whatever, anything like that, or in the Arid Nexus boneyard or anything along those lines, they've got those puddles of slag from the piping and stuff like that. So if you drive a vehicle through there and you get slagged, when your character gets out, you will be slagged permanently until you close the session, reopen it. And it's a big pain because it doesn't show any signs of that. Like, you don't have like the slag effects or anything like that on the screen, but you will be taking damage as if you were slagged. It's a huge problem. It's a really big thing.
I'm surprised that they haven't patched that.
Yeah, well, just they've been working on Borderlands 3. I'm okay with that.
True story. I mean, the fact that I've played as much Borderlands 2 as I have and haven't had that issue, at least that I'm aware of, then like, looking back on it now I'm thinking, I'm like, oh my god, there were times where I'm like, why am I dying so fast? It could totally be that.
Yep, absolutely. So,
and I just didn't know it because I didn't know it was a thing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why it's dangerous. But yeah, I mean, it's a big thing, and so just if you take any kind of slag damage in a vehicle, I try and avoid it by just, if I see an enemy and it looks like they might have something slag, I'm like, I'm out the vehicle, I'm out. Like,
Right.
So I just hop out and everything like that. But yeah, so do not get yourself permaslagged. It is not a fun thing to have happen. So, we've kind of this is kind of gone a lot into this issue and everything, but pros and cons of slag as a mechanic in the game. I understand why they did it. I respect them for trying it. I don't think it worked the way they wanted it to. They ended up that was one of the key things they ended up having to balance around. The key things they end up balancing around are this. First of all, Salvador is a character.
Yep.
Okay. Secondly, slag. Another big issue. Okay. The B shield.
Yep.
Okay. Love the shield. I understand everything like that, but they end up balancing around it. And then two main weapons, I would say, which are the Unkempt Herald.
Yep.
And and especially really, really early in the game, the conference call.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
and then once you get to the DLCs, probably the grog nozzle as well.
Yeah, definitely the grog nozzle, and I'm not gonna say that. I was gonna say maybe the Sandhawk a little bit, but that's probably not as big of a thing. So I understand why they did it and everything like that. Overall, it doesn't reduce my enjoyment of playing the game, so much so that I don't want to do it or anything like that, or that I'm going to avoid it. I still enjoy playing the game well enough. That being said, I think it could have been I won't say a huge difference, but I will say it could have been a slightly better game if they would have found a way to get around Slag and to not have it be such a big deal. That and Eridium both, honestly. I don't think it would have made as much of a difference as some people claim it would have, but I think it would have been a more enjoyable experience, and I think it would have also made it more approachable for more casual players as well.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, if you want to see how to do that kind of stuff in a game, see Corrosion in Borderlands 1. Mm-hmm. Like, super beneficial, not absolutely necessary.
Correct.
That's basically it. And no alternative currency. You know?
Yep.
Not saying that Borderlands 1 is a better game, it's a completely different game because of those, because of the way that those things work. One very, very last thing, speaking of alternate currencies and stuff, moonstones are a thing in the pre-sequel. Alright, so that's going to bring us to the episode, the end of the episode, and the final segment of the day, final segment of every episode, Going Gun. So we figured it appropriate that since we were doing an entire episode on Slag and Eridium and things like that, that today we are going to be talking about Moxxi's grog nozzle.
Gross. No, I'm just kidding.
So, I have a paragraph written here. I'm just going to read through it. Jeff, jump in, and whatever you want.
As you got it.
Can do. So, the grog nozzle is a unique Malawan Slag pistol that you receive as a quest item from Claptrap when beginning the Beard Makes the Man quest in the Tiny Tina DLC. Like any Moxxi weapon, any damage you do with the grog nozzle in hand comes back to you in the form of health at a certain percentage. What makes the grog nozzle one of the top tier weapons in the game is that the health gain is 65%, which is absolutely incredible. Compare that to the Ruby, which is another Moxxi Malawan pistol, which, while respectable, has only a health return of 12.5%.
Yeah, people got to understand, like, people that got the game when it was re-released as the Handsome Collection or anything like that, you have to understand, like, in the early days, like everyone was like, oh my gosh, you got to see this Ruby. It gives you, like, almost 13% health back, and then, you know, like, the grog nozzle comes in, it's like, oh yeah, that's cute. Like,
right, hold my beer. Yeah. Literally.
You know, like,
hold my grog.
Perfect. So, no, I mean, it was, like, everyone, I remember, like, back in the day, the big thing was, like, yo, you got to get yourself a slag-bladed Ruby. Like,
yeah,
you know? Yep. Like, people would farm for hours for that, and then it's just, like, you could get this thing as a side quest item. It's like, oh, all right.
Right. In addition to the other Moxxi weapons, it's important to note that the health gain is not only based on damage that the pistol itself does, it also includes grenade damage, melee damage, or if you're gun zerking with Salvador, the secondary gun damage. So whatever, you know, if you're... It's just one of the most common things to do. Grog nozzle in your offhand, Unkempt Herald in your right hand, and you're just... Man, so when I played through the... when I played through the DLC, the Commander Lilith DLC, I talked about last week how I just bounced right out of there and went and got a grog nozzle. Right?
Yep.
And then by the time I was running grog nozzle in the left hand and the infection cleaner in the right hand, I just wasn't losing life. You know, you're rocking both of them, and that's not nearly as powerful as the double penetrating Unkempt Herald. But I'm still like just both triggers down the whole time, and every now and then you'll just see your health bar just blip, like a little bit, and then it just goes right back up.
Oh yeah.
It's just stupid awesome. Put one of them in Zero's hands, you know, and have him do your melee build thing. Same with Krieg. I mean, any of that stuff. Really, really great.
Yeah. One of the, you know, he made a point about it. One of my favorite things is Also, secondly, I would just like to point out this is the first time that I'm actually seeing this Google Doc that Drew has about it, and he has it listed as the Gragnazzle.
I do.
So, intentionally. Don't worry. Yeah, I love playing as Zero. Like, melee build Zero is great with this thing, because, like, Slag Blade Ruby is still handy for Zero, but it's nice to be able to switch over to the Grog Nozzle, and then I use the Chain Lightning, and I'm just like, oh no, I've got, like, no health. Just, just, like, throw a Chain Lightning out, and all that Chain Lightning damage comes back to me as health. And, like, it's legit. Like, it will recover, like, 100% of my health. You know, I could be at like a health point and throw this thing out there with a Grog Nozzle, I'd be fine.
Right, right.
It's great.
Or like if you're Axton, right? Grenade build Axton, and you've got a Grog Nozzle in hand, and you just huck you're like, oh, I'm dying. Huck a fastball, and you're good.
Yep.
You know? It's easily one of the top 3 weapons in the game. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And again, I know we're ranting and we're raving about it and everything like that. It's because of what it does for you. And here's the thing: we wish it didn't have to be that way.
Right.
We understand that, but it's kind of become a necessity, at this point. So that's the way it is.
Yeah. So everything that we're talking about now has been all about the health returns. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me get back to the document here. The other incredible benefit of rocking the Grog Nozzle is that it always does Slag elemental damage, making it amazing for late gameplay.
Always. Third time.
Literally 100% of the time.
If a guy comes
Sorry, go ahead.
if a guy comes into your game and he's like, "Oh, hey, I got a fire Grog Nozzle." Do 2 things. First of all, tell him no you don't. And if he claims he does again, have him show it to you. And if he does, yeah, he gibbed that gun into the game. He cheated that game into the gun, or that gun into the game. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. That's the way it is.
Yes. Yep.
Why you would, I have no idea, but still.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be the weirdest. That'd be one of the stupidest things you could do.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's not all upside. The downsides of using the Grog Nozzle are incredibly low damage, stupid low. And like, you're not even really. I'll get to that point in a second. But okay. And the other downside is the fact that since it's a quest item, it's likely to spawn with different parts every time you load into the game. Obviously, there is the rare chance that it could have the exact same parts both times, but it's just with how many different parts there are for weapons, it's super unlikely. Mm-hmm. For example, you may get a Vladoff barrel one time, and then the next time you play, you get a Tediore barrel. That's just the nature of quest items and how they work, because they're not, unless there's a couple quest items I believe that are specific builds, like it's always going to come with this grip and always come with this barrel, but but most of them don't work like that. So every time you load in, it's going to be different. It's going to have different numbers, different barrels, different grips, obviously, whatever. But always Slag, always Slag. Anyways, but the point is that you're not really looking to use the Grog Nozzle as a damage-dealing weapon. Its primary uses are for the healing and for the slagging. That's all it's there for.
Yep.
So make sure that you have you're still going to want to do your other... You're still going to want to farm for your other weapons. You're still going to want, a Deepa or an Infinity or a Hornet or what have you. The Grog Nozzle's just there for the slagging and for the health benefits. So, to acquire the Grog Nozzle, simply load into the unassuming docks from any travel station, and then proceed through the main story of Tiny Tina's assault on Dragon Keep until you meet Claptrap in the mines of Avarice. Once you accept the Beard Makes the Man quest from him, the Grog Nozzle is going to be in your inventory. Now, I'm going to say this as slowly and as clearly as possible. Do not complete and turn in the quest. This kills the Grog Nozzle. Okay?
This kills the Grog Nozzle.
It's a quest item. Hence, once that quest is complete, the Grog Nozzle goes bye-bye. Okay?
Forever.
Yeah, there's no Although, from doing the research on this episode of, or in this segment of Going Gone, I found out that they did make it a lootable item for a while.
Yep. So they did actually make it a lootable. I was fortunate enough to actually get this as an actual thing. So there was a small point where you could actually, when they were doing the Borderlands $1 million loot hunt, and they were allowing people to get weapons that normally you couldn't get, and they were getting them from different enemies and things like that. So you would actually load in for that day, and you would go and you would kill a specific enemy that they had challenged you to do, and you could find that on their website or on their Twitter or whatever. I think there might have also been a splash screen when you load in the game, and one of them actually was the grog nozzle. Drew, without looking at it, if I remember right, I think it was from the Iron Golem that you had to kill
correct.
To get it. Yep. Okay. Still got it. So, there was a lot of fun stuff in there. So that was the only way that you could like actually get it, IRL, which I'm super, super sad about now, because now that max level is 80 and not 72 anymore.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Not that it matters, because again, you're not getting it for the damage, you're getting it for the slagging and for the health, but to all my other Vault Hunters out there that got it at 72, it's like, we are
press F to pay respects. All right.
Pull one out for the grog nozzle. So,
yeah.
But
man, I hadn't considered that. So like you could go through and farm all your other normal stuff, and get it at level 80 or whatever. But the grog nozzle's always going to be 72.
Yep.
I mean, if you still have that looted version from.
Oh, I still do.
Yeah, of course. Of course you do.
Yeah, so
and then tweak it between your characters.
No, I got one for each character.
Oh. There you go. So, that's a good idea.
That was that was kind of the thing for that. And then there was other cool things they did too. I don't consider this, like, I know that was the point, but that's the only way I have a Cobra as well. Like, I have a Cobra.
Mm-hmm.
They made it like a super easy lootable thing from the Badassosaurus.
Oh.
That's kind of one of those things. It's like, it feels like a participation trophy. It's like, hey buddy, good job, you got it. It's like, thanks.
But did I really?
Yeah.
It's funny.
One day I'm hoping to get like a naturally farmed one from the burners. So
yeah, there you go. So
anyway.
Quick little thing, because I didn't mention it at all. I just talked about mechanics and everything. Does have a random chance when you're using it to make you appear drunk, like you lean left or right, and if you're still in the Mines of Avarice, you'll actually hiccup as well.
Yep.
So I just felt like that stuff was not important to the reason for getting the grog nozzle. It's got its other, like, you get it for other reasons, but I just figured I would point that out in case anybody goes to get it and they're like, "What the hell's this doing on my screen?"
Yeah.
That's it. Just listen to the quest and you'll understand why it is the way it is.
That being said, you can actually use the drunk effect to your benefit, because while you don't hiccup and everything like that anywhere else but the Tiny Tina DLC and the Mines of Avarice, you actually do still get the wavering drunk effect from that. Now, what that does is that actually puts out a lot more pellets from the grog nozzle. Now, here's the fun thing. That carries over if you switch weapons really quickly. So
I had no idea about that.
Yeah, okay, so I'll tell you one thing. I had one of the most satisfying kills the other day, and it was so great because what I've been doing when I was farming Uranus with my Zero is I've been using, like I said, I've been using Zero. I generally go in, I have the grog nozzle in my hand, just because I do whenever I do this. What I do is I throw out his decoy, I throw the kunai to go ahead and put Deathmark on him and to potentially put Slag on him. Okay, so he's already taken like extra damage from Deathmark and everything like that. So what happened was I had the perfect setup. Like, I threw the kunai at him right as I was done throwing the last kunai, and it gave him Deathmark and everything, is right when the grog nozzle started to do its drunk effect.
Okay.
So I switched over to the Sandhawk. So you're getting like the Sandhawk, like, burst fire with the multiple pellets across it, but you're getting that, like, plus you're getting that line that goes across there of the bullets, like, 5 times in like kind of like a burst, kind of like a shotgun almost kind of pattern.
Right.
Okay, so I did that, and I just happened I think it was like 3 out of like the 5 or 6 things that I actually shot out of there also did bore. So he was
really?
Yeah, so I did all that, and I one-shotted Uranus by doing that. It was just
way!
Yeah, it was like something that will never happen again, and it was fantastic. So it was like, all right, go in here, decoy, throw the thing, drug effect, and then Sandhawk, and it was just like, like
all of a sudden your PlayStation just like you could fry an egg on the top.
It did, yeah. Like it slowed down for a little bit. Like it was like, it was starting to like loot, drop frames like hardcore and everything. And all of a sudden he was just like, I knew I messed with it too, because it like, he was destroyed and like his health bar went away and I got the experience, and then just like his legs just like started spinning and then just went what-da, just like launched into the air. It was amazing. It was so entertaining, and it will never happen again. So,
nice. Well, that's a fantastic story to end on. Thank you for joining us for this episode of A Vault Hunter's Guide to the Borderlands. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Good luck and good drops.
Bye.